G'day, my name's Space, but I write a couple of words. Well, generally just Base and Detox, and that's what I'm writing today, Detox. You might hear some background noises, because there's some dogs in my room. But yeah, so a bit of the thought process when I'm making a piece. I generally have a couple of ideas running around in my brain that I want my piece to look like, and that tends to get a bit muddy, so it ends up being a combination of everything that's going on in my brain. But with this one I wanted it to be a particular shape, which it didn't end up turning out to be like. But yeah, I'll try to walk through this as best as I can. I'm a bit of an awkward person, so I imagine it'll get a bit awkward. So just like everyone, I lay down the foundation of my letters, and then because I'm left-handed, I work right to left. So I'll start refining the shape of each letter while I add all the little extra bits and pieces, like arrows and just like flicks and flares and stuff like that. I like to sometimes, like with this piece in particular, I did it with the D and the S. I like to create multiple paths, so you could make the S out of like 2 or 3 different paths along the S, if that makes sense. It's yeah, so I just add arrows and stuff. It's really just trial and error, you know, like I'll lay out an arrow in a particular direction. If I don't like it, I'll put it somewhere else or get rid of it completely. I guess my pieces are built up of like the letter structure, and then either arrows, caps, like you see on the top of the K there, or I guess what I call alternate endings, which is where I'll just throw a couple of extra lines towards the end of a segment of letter. Practice makes perfect, but you know, like if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, I don't know. For me personally, I just feel like you don't grow as an artist by doing the same thing over and over again. So I like to try new things constantly, which is why I like to change up the name from Base to Detox as well. Different letter combinations can push your creative skills. As far as my style goes, with my style I try as much as I can to stick to what I see in the local scene, which I live north of Brisbane here in Australia, and a lot of my styles are influenced by a lot of the Brisbane crews. Some of the crews down there that have been getting around for ages, people like Mex and Blacks, and there's some guys from up my way that I don't really, I get a lot of inspiration from them, but I don't really tend to do their style because they're so unique. Q's and User, they have like an insane style that's just so different to what you usually see around these parts anyway. Q's has since moved overseas, but some of his pieces still float around the coast here. I think he's got a piece that's been up for about 15 years now, 16 years, so they were definitely kings in this area. Usurps gets around still. I definitely get a lot of inspiration from the local scene. And I definitely encourage people to sort of adapt to their local scene style, just to keep that alive. Everybody wants to be different, everybody wants their own style. But the way they do that is to adapt other areas' styles and call it their own. But yeah, I get inspiration from a lot of artists, both here and overseas. But yeah, anyway, on the piece, I try to fill as much negative space as I can. I don't like having big spaces in amongst all the letters. I try to keep things nice and tight, and the piece as a whole, I just try to balance it as much as I can. And when I say balance, I don't mean like it has to be even. You can have off balance, which looks really good as well. It's just about finding a balance. I'll speed up and slow down this video as it goes along as well, because yeah, I'm generally a quiet person. I don't usually talk all that much, so it's going to be a bit hard for me to talk for 2 hours otherwise. I started doing those little half arrows at the end of some of the lines there, where the line would just sort of cut off. I started doing little arrows there and little half arrows. I think it looks very good. So it's definitely something that I've recently added to my pieces. If I'm not happy with the piece, how it turns out, I'll manipulate it. I'll just keep adding stuff to it and basically just experiment with it to come up with new techniques or ideas and stuff like that. That's how you can grow as an artist. Taking what you think doesn't look good and turning it into something that you don't mind. I've always been. I think everyone is their own biggest critic. You're always going to be able to spot the flaws in your own work, even if other people can't see it. You're always going to spot the flaws in your own work. So it's better to just learn little tricks and add to them over time. That D shape right there, I actually really like that sort of double stroke, like a stroke from the bottom of the D and then a stroke over the top. I think that looked really good, but I just didn't feel like it balanced with the rest of the piece, so I ended up closing that little gap off. But it's probably something that I'll implement into a further piece further down the track. as I'm sort of going about the piece, I'll think about where the 3D's gonna go. And at this point, I kind of thought that I wanted it to be hanging out to the bottom of the, like, towards the lower right. And there would just be no 3D on the top of the piece there, which you don't want a lot if it's on the bottom of the piece, but yeah, I just wanted something on top of the T to give it a something for the 3D to grab onto. So this this little arrow path I did on the D here, I really liked this one. Most of the arrows kind of just go where they go, but this one here just felt very, very well placed. And it helped to balance out the arrow on the right side, on the bottom there as well. There's like a big arrow, top left, bottom right, and a little arrow, top right, and now bottom left, although this one I'm doing now is kind of, it's like medium size, I guess. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the look of the first lines here. If I had to change anything, it would be to soften some of the edges on the S. The S is very blocky, very sharp compared to the rest of the piece. The rest of the piece has concave edges, I guess, or convex. It's got outside edges, whereas the S is all inside edges. Concave, yeah. So, that would be the only thing I would change, is to maybe circle out some of the bottom of the S. But, yeah. First lines are always the most important on a piece, so they always take me the longest. you can have, great color combos, you can have great effects on your piece, everything like that, but if your first lines aren't that great, then the piece isn't going to turn out that great. So yeah, now I'm doing the 3D sort of effect, but this is kind of useless. Well, not useless, but I guess kind of useless. I ended up changing these 3D, changing the angle of the 3D to just going straight down, because otherwise the 3D would hang over the page on the right side, on the S, which I just didn't think would look good, so I moved it facing straight down. So with the fill, I knew that I wanted a black fill piece. I knew that I wanted a black fill piece with orange, like an orange 3D. So and the last negative fill piece I did the lines first and then started doing the black, but the black was bleeding through the lines. So I started doing the black first on this one, then I was going to do the lines after. But I also I didn't want the lines to be one color. I wanted them to have sort of shine points on them. So I was going to have orange lines with like yellow highlights. But so I started doing the black fill first, and then I realized that I'm going to be doing the lines in pencil anyway, so I can just rub out the pencil or erase the pencil. So yeah, from the K onwards, I ended up just doing the lines and then the fill, because it's a lot cleaner. You can get the lines a lot cleaner when you do it like that. But yeah, I'll let the fill play out, because it's not really a lot I can say about it. I just use a permanent marker to do the black fill. I use a fine line to get the edges, and then I just fill the rest in with a permanent marker. The permanent marker, it allows you to draw over it on the paper, so it's good to use as a fill. I need to get myself some proper markers though, so I can get some colour happening. And I just double up the marker. I'll do two passes with the marker, so that I don't really have any streaks, any pen strokes. But yeah, I'll let this play out. So with the 3D fill, it's pretty straightforward really. I just, wherever there's like another bit of the piece overhanging or whatever, you just want that darker underneath it, basically just putting shadows where you think shadows should be. Sometimes that can get a little confusing though, particularly at the start where you don't really have a light point referenced, and on straight sections as well, like this. I tend to just make the edges darker and then have it lighter in the middle, because that kind of just makes sense to me. But yeah, the pencils I'm using to do this are just Faber-Castell, is that how you say it? They're just Faber-Castell Black Edition. It's like a softer, I don't know what you call them. They're just softer pencils, so they blend together a bit better. They're still cheap. Yeah. I think the pack I got cost me like, I don't know, $30 or something like that. Which is Australian dollars, so it's fucking expensive. But I'm sure it's cheaper elsewhere. But you can use any pencils really. But yeah, with this piece I think I used, well, I mean, if you count the white of the paper, there's like 5 colours in the 3D fill. You've got like a base tone orange, like it's like your orange is the base tone, and then a yellow which led into just the white of the paper for the lighter spots, and then a bit of black in the shadowy areas, and then I used just a tiny bit of red in the darker areas as well, and it just gave it that extra pop. I didn't put the red in until later on, but I'm glad I did. on that arrow, you can see that I did the brighter sides on either end rather than in the middle, and that's because there's a darker side either side of it. Very weird way of saying it, but yeah, I don't know. You can have light, two edges meet with a light, but it kind of has to be like a 90-degree angle. I just felt that right there in that particular instance, it was better to have the light on either end rather than in the middle. Otherwise the shadows would make no sense at all. So I kind of wanted to add a little depth, a bit of a 3D feel to the piece itself. So I tried adding a bit of white, which in the footage it looks okay, but in person I just wasn't really feeling it, so I got rid of it. Probably should have kept it, but that's alright. the top of the K is probably my favorite bit of 3D. I think that looks really good. So with the drop shadow, I started doing it orange, which it looked okay, I guess, but I guess again I just wasn't really feeling it. So I ended up getting rid of the orange, and just doing like a grey, like an actual shadowy drop shadow, which ended up looking really good. As far as the drop shadow is concerned, pick one of your angles and then from there you can use your little slide bit of paper, stop from smudging. You can use that as a bit of a ruler and just line up your shadows and smudge over it with your finger or a Q-tip or something like that, to stop the shadow from spreading out where you don't want it. And it helps a lot, and it looks really good. But yeah, I'll lay down sort of a bit of a thick shadow close to the piece and just smudge it thin as it falls off. And then I'll come back across and I'll put a thick shadow line there, but I'll soften that up as well, because if you just leave it as a thick line, that it's just a line, it's not a shadow. I'm probably rambling, but yeah, if you can make sense of that. So this right here, I wanted to experiment a little with a splatter effect, which I practiced on a bit of paper, and it worked quite well. So you just get a bit of acrylic paint, water it down a little bit in an empty biro tube, and you just dip the pen in there. You don't need to hold anything in there, you just dip it in the paint and then blow it out like you're spitting a spit wad or something like that. I found when I was practicing on the bit of paper that if you blow, then it works, but not as well. It's kind of thick. But if you do this like spit wad kind of action, like you throw on a spitball or something, then it gives it like a really thin, you get like the really thin droplets and stuff, like it's actually come from a spray can. So yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. On the other side here, I kind of just wanted little droplets. I didn't want like a full-on spray, but it just didn't feel like it was enough. It wasn't balanced enough, so I ended up doing a bit of a spray over that side as well. And I love my drips. So I'd have some drips in there as well. Sorry if I'm like clearing my throat a lot. I don't know what's going on. Probably got the dreaded or something. At this point, it's kind of do or die. Like, if you put a drip there and you don't like it, too bad kind of a deal, because, yeah, there's no rubbing out pen. Especially paint pen.
OG Panda Beats. If I think something's not complete, then I'll keep working on it. Keep doing stuff to it. At least until I get a result that I want. And then my camera battery died. So, and I didn't realise it because my headset was on. But yeah, I ended up putting some white highlights just on the top of the light and stuff like that. If you made it all the way to this point, thank you for starters. But also drop a comment with a word you'd like me to do, because I really like challenging myself with different styles, different techniques, and different words. So drop a comment with a word you want me to sketch up, and if I like the letter combination enough, then I'll do it over the next couple of weeks. I just wanted to say as well, thanks for 200 subs. I hit that this week, so that's pretty sick. Cheers for that. And yeah, thanks for watching.